Greetings, my little Guzzlings. Welcome to another Friday bake night. Now we're going to make some oatmeal cookies. Well, a sort of oatmeal cookie, but we're not just going to stick with oatmeal cookies. These are going to be chocolate ganache sandwich cookies. So we're going to make the cookies, and you can have them as they are, just oatmeal cookies. You could have them with some chocolate on top, and we might do that. We'll see how we get on. We're going to do them with a ganache, chocolate ganache filling. All right. So before we start, we're going to do our cookies. So for that, you're going to want 240 grams of unsalted butter. You're going to want 120 grams of caster sugar, and you want about 16 grams of whole egg. All right. So I've whisked up an egg and weighed out about 16 grams in it. We'll possibly chuck a bit more egg in. We'll see how the dough goes. You're going to want some cinnamon powder, 4 grams of that. Baking powder, 4 grams of that. Some plain flour, 180 grams. Almond flour, if you like, 30 grams. Oatmeal. So if you've got some oats, just grind them up. Okay, we want 120 grams of that. And then we want about 16 grams of coconut flakes. Now, unfortunately, all I can get is desiccated coconut, but it should be right. All right. So our first task is obviously to start getting this stuff mixed together. Okay, so I'll put my butter in here. Again, it's still a little bit hard. Okay, most of it came straight off the back of Asda this time. Couldn't get Tesco slot. So we got Asda butter. So I'm just going to try and break that up a little bit. I mean, you could shove it in the microwave, I suppose, if you want to. And then when we've softened this up a bit, we're going to chuck in that caster sugar. Okay. So where is it? There it is. Caster sugar. Caster sugar. Yeah. Make sure I've got the right thing. Some of these things look almost the same. All right. So in goes the caster sugar, and like before, we're just going to mix this until it's all nicely blended together. And when it's almost there, we'll chuck in that bit of egg. Now, we're going to need, obviously, put the oven on in a bit, okay, to bake these things. And I've split this up into a couple of sort of different sessions because I want to get the cookies done. And then I'm also going to be baking, hopefully, a chocolate tart. Okay, now that requires this bit to then go in the fridge for a good few hours. Now it says ideally for 8 hours. We ain't going to do 8 hours. Well, I might do. I might make it up and then just shove it in the fridge, and then tomorrow morning get on with the rest of it. But we'll see how we go. All right. So I'm just going to keep on mixing this for now, and when it's time for the egg, I'll get back to you. All right. So chuck that egg in there. Like I say, that was an egg. Whisked it up and then weighed out about 16 grams. Okay, so I'm just going to mix that in, and then we will sieve into that our cinnamon, our baking powder, our plain flour, and our almond powder, almond flour, which I must admit I hadn't realised when I bought it that actually that's what you use to make macaroons. Might make some of them. See how much I've got left over. So that's more or less blended together. So now when I sieve, like I say, almond powder, I'm not sure that will go through there. Baking powder, cinnamon powder, quite a lot of cinnamon in this, and our plain flour. And all we're going to do now is just sieve that in. Okay, making sure we don't get any lumps. Get over. No good if it goes over the side, is it? So, I'm going to get this sieved through, and then it's a matter of mixing it all together. Now, if you've got a mixer, you probably find it easier to do it in a mixer. Okay, but I'm just going to carry on getting that in. So we've got that in there now, and so now it's just a matter of mixing it all together. Like I say, if you've got a mixer, shove it in that, and give it a good old thorough mix till it's all thoroughly mixed together. And then we'll be taking it out and doing a little bit of light kneading with our hands before we then roll it out. So like I said, the tart, when we do that, we need to actually chill the dough down. This one, before we can then do anything more with it. But this one, we more or less do it straight away. Alright. And if you're lucky, there might be some spares come Monday. You know who I'm talking to. On the other hand, there might be plenty of spares when I finish making them, but by the time I eat them all, there won't be any. Right, so I'm just going to carry on mixing all this together, and when we're ready to do the kneading, I'll show you. Right, and then of course I forgot, or rather I remembered, I said we're going to knead it with the hands and then we're going to roll it, but of course before we do that, we need to chuck in our coconut and our oatmeal and mix all that in. So don't forget to do that bit, alright? So get that all mixed in. So again, if you was in the blender, the mixer, you would have just chucked this in. And we're now going to mix this all thoroughly together. And so you can go and have another little pause. And by the way, it's after 6 o'clock, so you can go and get yourself something to imbibe. I've got an open bottle of wine from last night there, or I've got some beer behind me. I'll have to think about it, Right, okay, so I'm going to get that mixed up, and then I'll show you how we roll it out. Okay, so I've turned it out, I've put some flour down. Okay, now it's quite a sticky dough, alright, so make sure it's well floured. And actually, because of my work surface, I'm just going to split that, okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm now going to roll that, and we want it about 5mm thick. Okay, they don't want to be very thick cookies. Okay, I haven't got any guides, but that should be enough. And then I'm using a slightly smaller cookie cutter than cookie cutter than I did before, simply because we're going to be doubling them up when we make the sandwich, and we'll get more out of it that way. So I'm just going to cut some of these. Now the oven is on 170. Okay, don't know what that is in gas. So I'm just now going to just cut these, lay them on a baking sheet, come here, and then they will go, when the oven's up to temperature, they will go into the oven for about 15 minutes, but I'll be keeping my eye on mine because it does have a tendency, like I've said numerous times before, if you've been paying attention, to slightly overcook them. So we don't want them burning, we want them to be a nice pale colour, okay? Now probably when I take them out they'll be like dark brown. And you'll be saying you got that wrong again. So here we go, I'm just going to keep on cutting. Come on. Okay, and then like I say, when they're done, in the oven 15 minutes. Right, we're just waiting for the timer to go off for the first batch. Now I've had a look, excuse me, and I'm starting on the beer. I'm going to give them the full 15 minutes. I'll put them in for 10 to begin with, but they're going to need a little bit longer. Now we're going to make the ganache that's going to go inside, but that has to chill. So we're going to make it, chill it, and we'll do the sandwiching bit tomorrow. Okay, so for that you're going to need 320 grams of dark chocolate, 200 mils of double cream, 30 grams of honey, and 20 mils of Cointreau, or whatever spirit you want. I'm using amaretto because, like I think I might have said, I haven't got any Cointreau, I've only got amaretto. or gin, but I don't think gin go with it. It's a tropical flavoured gin, but the wife likes that, and I can't. Well, if there's not a lot left, she won't be happy. So, once I've got that first batch out and shove the next batch in, we'll start making the ganache. So there you go, that's the first lot cooling down, and we'll let them cool and then we'll pack them in something, and like I say, because we'll do the sandwiching tomorrow. Now they shouldn't really rise, so they should be nice and flat on top and bottom, but obviously we'll be using the bottoms against, you know, bottom to bottom, but anyway, we'll see that tomorrow. So, just going to put these over there for a second. So the chocolate needs to be chopped up. So I decided I might as well give it a chop for her to win. Right, so we're going to be boiling up the cream, but because we need to get our chocolate chopped, when we add it, just so it obviously blends in easier, I'm going to get chopping now. So get this chopped up. Try not to take your fingers off. Quite hard this dark chocolate, harder than that white stuff we used last time. But we'll get it chopped and then we'll start making it. Okay, so I've chopped up my chocolate, and now I'm going to add the 30 grams of honey. Okay. Now the next step will be to tip that 200 ml of double cream into a saucepan, and we'll then boil it. And hopefully, in boiling that, get all the honey out, we will then be able to melt all this down into our Ganache. Okay, it's not quite the final thing, because even once it's set, we're actually going to be coating it in chocolate. Tempered chocolate, not tried that one. Okay, so that goes in there. There's my saucepan. Let me just put that there for my double cream, but we're going to set it in a tray. So what I've done here is I've lined a dish. It needs to be quite large because we need to better cut out enough rounds to go into that, and we'll use the same cookie cutter that we used for our cookies to cut our Ganache out. So we're not likely to get enough in there to do every single one, but like I said, some of them we'll just coat with some chocolate. Okay, so that's lined up, chocolate and honey in there ready to be all mixed together. So the next trick is put our honey, put our double cream into there, and then we're going to boil it. Okay, so just going to pause there while I get some of this stuff out of the way. Still got one batch of biscuits in the oven. Right, so there's the double cream. Like I say, we're going to bring that up to the boil, and then we're going to mix in with that, and then of course our final ingredient will be 20 mils of whatever spirit you're having in it. Alright, rum or Cointreau, we're having amaretto because like I said, it's the only one we got. So, and then that will be poured into there, that'll go in the fridge and set, and then tomorrow we'll be cutting it up and coating it in chocolate. Excuse me, that's that beer. I think it was that first beer, so I had to have a second beer to see if it's the first beer or the second beer to make me burp. Can't have been the second beer, though, can it? Because I hadn't drunk the second beer when I burped the first time. Never mind. So, it's just a matter of waiting for that to come to the warm then. Get warm in here. Bloody freezing in here, really. That's why I put a jumper on. Absolutely bloody freezing. I know, bloody hot. Take my jumper off. I think we'll leave the old tart till tomorrow. Although I might just do the dough, shove it in the fridge, and then it's done in it. We might do it. We'll see how we go. But that's a different set of videos anyway. So, don't splash the bloody cream everywhere. So okay, I'll wait till it's come to the boil and then we'll mix it all up. Okay, this is just coming up to the boil. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to measure out 20 mils of amaretto. Whee! 1, 2, shove that in there now. That's that done. Just mop up that bit that decided to go Oh, perhaps it didn't. Perhaps it went in the bowl. Can't see it now. Perhaps it went down the side of the bowl. Okay, perhaps it's in it. So, almost there now. And then, like I say, that's going to go in there and hopefully that will melt down. Okay, I've just cleared some space in the fridge. Not a good idea when you've just had a delivery. Okay. So, just coming up. And then, like I say, in there, so you need to have your dish all ready. It's be a bit easy if you've got it lined, right? You'll see why when we cut it tomorrow. He says like he's done this before and he's never done this at all before. Right, there we go. That's up to the boil. So we're now going to pour that into that. Okay, we'll get all that cream in there. Swap hands. Okay, these are really good, these spatulas, for getting everything out. They're just a bit floppier than I thought they'd be. So when we do our butter and sugar mix, they're not quite stiff enough, as he actually said to the bishop. Right, so there we go. That's in there. Now we want to just mix all this together. So if you had a sense of smell, you could probably say, oh, I like the smell of that amaretto and the chocolate, except I have no sense of smell, so I have no idea. So, start to all melt up. So like I say, this is going to be like the filling of what we actually do. And this is going to be a tricky bit because at the minute I haven't got a device or a method that I'm going to be able to dip these. What we'll do is when this is set and we've cut the rounds of it, we melt some chocolate, we temper it so it's nice and shiny. Oh no, sorry, that's the other dish. Sorry, no, that's, I'm thinking the wrong thing here. That's the tart. We'll get around to making that. We dunk this into the melted chocolate, you know, the set bits of this, and then immediately sandwich it between there. But at the moment, I'm not quite sure how I'm going to get it in and out. Yeah, you can use a thing called a chocolate fork, but you need to bend it so that you can like lift it in and out. Right, so that's just about done. So I take my dish and I now pour that into there. Okay, obviously we want to get it all in there. Now, because I'm trying to fill as many as possible, this isn't going to be very thick. You can make it a lot thicker. Okay, I could have used a smaller dish, and as a result, we had a nice thick sandwich. It's just that you would have ended up with most of them not being a sandwich, and then not everybody would get to try them. So get all that last bit of chocolate into there. Just spread that out. Actually, it's not going to be too bad thickness wise. Okay, so we just spread that out, and now that is going to go into the fridge, and this is going to go in the washing up eventually. Professional, goes in the washing up. So that's going to go in the fridge, that's going to chill, and then tomorrow we'll see how we get that into them. Okay, so here we are next morning. Actually, let me just lower that a little bit. You can see a little bit better what's going on. Here's our ganache for our cookies, chilled nicely overnight. And what we're going to do now is we're going to melt some more chocolate down, and we're just going to give a thin coating to the top of that, and then just let that chill for a little bit before we then get to the bit where we're going to start stuffing our cookies. So, oops, almost pulled that in the pan of water then. So first off, we just put some chocolate, about enough that we think then melted down is going to cover it. Now it doesn't matter if we do too much, because we're going to need some more when we come to do the assembling, and we will use what's left with that plus a little bit extra. All right, so I think that will probably do it. Might be a little bit more. Like I say, it doesn't matter because we're going to be using some more later. So I've got a pan on and I'm going to do this one. I could chop it up and put it in the microwave, but I'm just going to put it on here and I'm going to melt it that way. So I'm going to melt it down, and then when we're ready I'll show you what happens. Right, so that chocolate's melted down, okay. So just make sure there's no lumps in it. Now I've removed the ganache, and actually I've trimmed off some of that excess paper, because what we're now going to do is, when this is cooled a little, we're going to just pour a thin layer over the top. Right, it's a little bit rough and ready. I perhaps should have spent a little bit more time smoothing it, but even so we'd have still laid this layer on top. I'm then going to let that set, so we'll put it back in the fridge, and then, oops, a bit of chocolate on me. And then what we'll do is we'll take it out, we'll turn it up, and we'll cut out the insides, and I reckon we could probably get about 8, 9, see if we can squeeze 10 out to go between them, and then the rest of the biscuits will just get coated with chocolate. So I'm just going to let that cool a little bit, and then we'll do the chabaron, I think it's called. Okay, so this is cooled a little bit, so what we're going to do now is we're just going to pour some of this over the top of the ganache, okay, and just spread a thin layer over the whole lot. So this is should be done with untempered chocolate, although to be honest I'm not really sure it's going to make an awful lot of difference by the time it's sandwiched inside the cookie. And don't worry if you've melted too much chocolate, because like I said, oops, ganache is a little bit on the soft side, okay, but I think that's enough. If you've got a nice palette knife, you can try and just smooth that a bit more. I think that's as good as I'm going to get it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put it back into that dish that I had it in before. And put this back into the fridge just to let that harden. And then in a bit we'll melt some chocolate down. Now what I've done is that I've got a little fork here, a little soft old picnic fork I think. I've just bent it, so the idea will be when we cut our rounds out we can dunk it into the melted chocolate, pull it out, and then we can start sandwiching it. Okay, but for now just need to let this chill. Okay, so we're getting to the final stages with our cookies. Okay, so we've got some melted chocolate, okay, that we used to coat the Ganache with, and I said to you we're going to be needing to add some more. Now we're going to temper this chocolate, and to do that we use melted chocolate, and then we melt into it some freshly chopped chocolate, and that should change the consistency somewhat of the chocolate, so that it's sort of, when it sets, it sort of sets a little bit differently, but to be honest I'm not really sure what makes much difference. But anyway, so I'm just going to chop this up, okay, then when that's chopped enough we'll just warm that back up again, and we'll add this in. Okay, so there's our melted chocolate. It's about 37 at the moment, and what we're going to do is we're going to add in this extra chopped chocolate, okay, and what we want to do is get this to melt as well, okay, and when that's doing that we'll start cutting up our Ganache into suitable sized pieces. So So we just need now to let that melt down and we'll be ready to go. Right, so I've taken the ganache out of the fridge and we actually want to cut this.
I couldn't find the songs you requested. Shuffling songs by Kenny G on Amazon Music.
What the? Alexa, stop! What earth was all that about? So, start again. Taking the Ganache out of the fridge. Okay, now it's easier to actually cut this, the layer of chocolate side down. So I'll put it on just a different board just to make that a little bit easier. Okay, we're just going to peel off that paper and get rid of that. Now, put a little bit more heat on there, just help that along a bit. Okay, we don't want this one getting too hot, just want to get that extra chocolate melted into there. Now, using a cookie cutter, we're now going to, so the same one we used to cook them, we're now going to cut some rounds. Now this could be a little bit tricky and you might find it easier if you was to warm up your cutter first, okay? But see how you get on. So I'm just going to cut these into the rounds, okay? Now we can't do any more until we've got this all liquefied. So that's it for now. I'm just going to cut some more of these out. Okay, so this is where we're now going to attempt coat them in chocolate, drain off the excess and create our sandwich biscuits. So I'm going to take one of my ganaches and we dunk it into the melted chocolate. Make sure it's all covered over and then lift it out, drain off the excess chocolate. Actually, I've got myself just something else to help. That fork's not quite big enough. Okay, and then place it onto the biscuit. We take our top one and lightly press down. Whoops, a bit of leakage there. But there is our first chocolate ganache sandwich cookie. So I'm just going to carry on and do some more. So just to let you see a little update, I've got 5 done. I've got another 5 inserts to do, but you can see I'm not going to pick them up yet. I'm going to let them set a bit, but I will show you finally when they're set later. What I will do also is I might put these on a plate and put them in the fridge just to chill them a little bit to help set that chocolate. Some are running out a bit. I'm not really draining it well enough, I think, but that doesn't matter. Who cares? Excess chocolate. Okay, so we've done all the ganache. So all we're left with now is some cookies and some chocolate. So guess what? We're going to pour some chocolate over the top of some of these cookies. So all I'm going to do is just take my spatula and just drizzle some chocolate over the top. Okay, so we've got some chocolate coated ones. I think my chocolate's starting to get a bit cold, not pouring quite so well, but we'll coat whatever ones we can, and then if we can't coat them all, we'll just have plain cookies. Right, so here's one of my chocolate coated cookies. I'll cut it in half because I'll have to give it up to my wife. Right, better than give her a whole one, isn't it? So, much more biscuity. I think because the oatmeal obviously was finer. Got a bit of crunch to it. I think that's the coconut. Now, there's a cookie sandwich one. Okay, again, cut that in half, slap your half some off. Okay, so let's try this one. I think I might have to have an accident with that one. Very nice. Very rich, very chocolatey. That loud chocolate that we put on top of the ganache makes it quite a nice little bite to it. Still a little bit soft, but the ganache is soft on the inside, hence the reason why we need to dip it in the chocolate. Very tasty. Not sure there's going to be any of these left over for work. Might have to have just a plain chocolate one.